So in this video, I'm going to show you how to turn a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, a 3/4 inch piece of block wood, which you can get in 2x2 squares, and a piece of decorative wood, and you put them together and you can come up with something like this beautiful piece. If you're tired of prefab plastic and prefab metal enclosures, little wood, little glue, couple screws, piece of tin, you can have a really nice looking project box. What if I told you that we can make a stomp box out of these scraps, and it will actually look pretty good. Now the outside of the stomp box is going to be these pieces of wood. You can get 1/4 inch pieces of wood like this at Home Depot. You can get one big piece of wood and then stain it. I wouldn't use expensive stuff like this, but we had this laying around for junk. But we just have a simple piece of plywood and 2 small pieces of wood, and we're going to make a box to fit all that stuff. So we have one constraint, and that is this piece of wood is only so long from here to here. Matter of fact, it's a foot. It's a foot long. So that's a pretty good front to back. I mean, front to back, if we have 6 inches, that should be more than enough. So we're going to cut this in half at exactly 6 inches. So this is what our final product's going to look like. So we've marked out our base piece of this scrap piece of plywood, 7 inches long by 6 inches front to back, and we're going to cut that out. So here we've got our 7 inch by 6 inch piece and our 2 6-inch pieces along the side. So now we're going to shape the side pieces. We're going to measure up a 1/4 inch, because remember, with a 1/4 inch there and the width of the plywood, the front of the pedal is going to sit about this high. So then the next question is, we need the top piece to be at least as wide as this thing. So you got about 1 3/4 inches. So it needs to be at least 1 3/4 inches wide on the top of the box. We could probably make it 2 inches. And if we made it 2 inches before the bend, that would give us more than enough. So we're going to measure, and we could probably get away with more than that. Let's go 2 1/4. So we're going to go 2 1/4 to that piece. And then what we're going to do is draw a line from here to here. So we've got our 2 1/4 up on top, and then we've got a bend here, and then we've got enough room if we put our switches right in the center of that. I'm just going to freehand this cut as close as I can. And we're going to trace it onto our second piece of wood. You can see we're a little long back here. We want both these pieces of wood to be the same. You can see we're close, but we have some minor differences. So what we're going to do at this point is sand them down. So the basic thing here is that the front edge is both together. So now we're just going to take this to the belt sander, and we're going to make them both even. So we're going to take our pieces and fit them to the edge of the wood. And you can just use your finger to make sure it's flush on both sides. Check it with your eyes and draw a line on each side. So why did we do that? Well, we're going to put some screws and some glue, and we need to know where the center of the wood is. And we want to be into the meat of the wood, which would be about here and here. So if we set this to the side, if we put a screw at 1 inch, and one at, looks like it's going to be 3 inches. We're going to have to use some short screws. Let's see if we got a screw. So these are 1¼ inch screws, so definitely we could go about 1 inch, and we could go almost all the way up to here. So I'll just mark that, kind of mark that there. So if we go 1 inch, and it looks like we can get away with not quite 3 1/4, 3 and 8, 9, 10. 3 11/16 is where that is. So we're going to come across here 3/4, 3/8 would be the center. So we'd want 1 screw there. And 1 screw there. And we're going to do the same to the other side. Come in 3/8. Come in 3/8. We're going to use this countersink drill bit in the drill press to put the holes through the bottom, and then we'll countersink them. So let's go ahead and drill the holes. So what we're going to do now is just put this where it belongs. Line up the back. The back is not as critical, but you want the front lined up. So we're square on the edge, and we're just going to mark where to drill the holes, because we don't want this splitting. So now we've got the holes drilled. We're going to go ahead, put a nice dab of glue down on both sides. And put our screws in. And then we're going to set it aside and let it dry. So after it's dried, we're going to just make it so that we have just a little bit of a lip on the back and a little bit of a lip on the front and a little bit of a lip on the top and just over the top of the piece. So we need to go from there so we're flush with the bottom. We get about a 1/16 of an inch sticking off the back. Actually, it's here that we want to, I'm just eyeballing this. And if you're a little bit large, it's no big deal. You can cut it down, sand it down. So we've cut one edge, and we're just going to go ahead and trace it onto the other edge. So you can see here that there's a difference between them. There's a little bit of a cut here and here that needs to be sanded down, and the backs aren't exactly straight. So we're going to take it to the sander and make both pieces the same. So here you can see we've sanded down both pieces and they're both the same. So we're going to unclamp them, and all we're going to do is glue these pieces onto the side like this. Line them up, glue them on the side, and our piece of metal will fit down through the center of this, and you'll be surprised how nice this looks. And we don't want to mar up the outside of the, you see how the clamp left a mark in there? So we're going to put that on the inside, but when we glue the other piece and clamp it together, we're going to use this piece of scrap right here. We'll clamp that on and we'll allow it to glue really nice. So here we've got it glued up. We've got it clamped on the side, we got it clamped on this side, and we'll go ahead and let that dry after we clean up the glue marks. So we figured out where our bends are. We got about 2 inches from the back. Because of the faceplate that's got to go in here, we extended this to 1 7/8 inches, and it's going to come out a little bit longer where the point is on this trim wood, and then the angle down, and then the bottom angle. So we've got all that figured out. So now we got to lay out our switch positions. Okay, here you can see we've laid out and popped where this is our mounting holes. These are our switches. This is an LED. This is our display. This is our jack. And here's our 2 resistors. So once that's laid out and you've punched the holes so the drills will go in the right spot, you can drill it out. Here you can see we've drilled 1/16 inch holes. You can see a little bit of light through them where you want everything to be. And now we can take them up to the size that we need just for the hole. We've got our pot mounting and resistor holes drilled. So we'll go ahead and bend this to fit our base. So the first bend that we're going to make is the middle bend, which is right here. Because if we made the other bends first, it would be real hard to do this middle bend and fit this in here. So we're just going to estimate where it ends up. Pull that out and see if that works for us. So actually we have just a little bit too much, but that's okay. We can bend that back out, no problem. So next we're going to do our 90-degree bend for the back. And then you can test fit that. So that's pretty nice. It's not quite there. It's we bent that a little too much, so we're going to open that up. I'm going to open that up just a little bit. And you see there, that's a pretty nice fit. And then we're going to finish off with the front bend, which is not going to be quite 90. Because remember, we've got about a 20 or 30 degree bend coming down to it. So instead of 90, probably about 70. And you could guesstimate that, no big deal. So we're pretty close there. So let's see if it fits. So it's not quite enough. So we're going to bend it just a little bit more on the front. Just a smidge. And that fits rather nicely on there. So you can see our screws are going to end up right on the wood, which is perfect. And we might be a little bit long in the back, so we're going to have to sand that down a little bit. So this looks pretty good. And you might be wondering what I used to shave that down. I just used a grinder with a sanding disc on it. And that was it. I got to cut out this section before we paint it. So we're going to cut that out with a Dremel tool. So at this point, we're almost ready to paint. We've just taken some Scotch-Brite and roughed up the surface. I'm not going to worry about primer coating this. I'm using a primer and paint at once. So that's good. So we'll get it mostly roughed up. Get rid of the shiny surfaces. And then we'll clean it with naphtha one more time. And then we'll paint it. So we sprayed the back and we're going to go ahead and spray the front. And this is a hammer paint. It gives it a nice hammered texture. So we're going to go ahead and let that dry, and we'll make the labels up for it. So we're in Silhouette Studio, and we've got our letters picked out. Basically, to do this, all you do is go over here and select text, and it'll tell you we're using 18-point Arial black, and then you select down here and you just type in your text. So that'll give you your letters for your project. I'm going to go ahead and kill this. So once you've had what you want to make selected up, it's all in red, but it's not ready to cut out yet. So you have to go over here to trace. Select the trace area. You can see my cursor there. And I'm going to select this area to trace. Then I go to trace. And it's traced. Okay, so our cutter is ready. And I always put it so that the sheet goes underneath the back roller, otherwise it gets screwed up. So we're going to come down here and we need to change this cardstock plane to it's not stencil paper, it's vinyl. It's not glossy, it's vinyl matte. So we changed it to vinyl matte. And we're going to go ahead and send it. Okay, like anything else, I always make a mistake with this thing. So I messed up on the media size and it printed where I didn't want it. So anyway, I went back to a 11 by 8.5 inch design and just moved my stuff around to fit on the page. So we're going to go back to send, and it says our cameo is ready, and we're going to go ahead and send it. And our cutter is cutting. So we can see that our letter's cut. So let's see what happens. So we take this edge and pull it up, and hopefully our letters will come out real nice. If you would need the box insulated, in other words, if you had any sort of audio signal coming through here and you wanted the box shielded, what you'd have to do is grind out an area underneath the screw to bare metal. And then when you put your copper tape on, you could copper tape the whole bottom of this thing. You bring your copper tape up to the side, underneath that screw hole, and you would relatively cover the whole thing, the whole bottom. Now I'm just demonstrating here. I'm not going to do this whole thing, but you get the idea. You put the whole bottom together. Now, you have to make sure that you buy conductive copper tape with conductive glue on it, which you can get at Amazon or eBay. But you can see, even though the tape overlaps, I still have a good connection. So you could shield this whole box. Once you had the box shielded, you could put a piece of this, what they call battery fish paper, right on top. And that will keep anything from inside the box from shorting out. And the whole box will be shielded and it'll be kept from shorting out. Now, like I say, they call this self-adhesive fish paper. So if you look up self-adhesive fish paper, you get kind of a wax paper that's pretty tough, with an adhesive on the back that you could just glue down. So I've got these decorative black screws. We're going to use them to put the rest of the box together. So this is the box. We've put an extra screw in the front, but we can see the screws match up nicely. And we have a nice foot switch. And no foot switch would be complete without the feet. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of faith in the sticky stuff that's on here. It may hold for a while, but it's probably going to come off. So we're going to hot glue the feet onto the bottom. So we're just going to take our hot glue gun and put some hot glue on the bottom of these. And just stick them in the corners. And you may say, well, you covered up the screws. Well, you'll never have to get into those screws again, because you just used those to glue the support pieces on. So there you have it.